Hello, welcome to PubShorts episode 40. Plug in, baby. Hi, Tony.
Episode 40 already. Good Lord. How quickly has that flown past?
Well, we are a weekly episodic, I guess.
I know.
Yeah,
Amazing.
and there's so much to talk about. So let's introduce ourselves, Tony. So my name is Dr. KK. I'm Innovation Officer at Trinka and Inago. And Tony, please introduce yourself and
Hi,
the show.
thank you, KK. I'm Tony O'Rourke. I'm Vice President here at Inago for partnerships, and I look after uh, commercialization largely about AI and editing products, mostly in the publishing space.
And why are we calling this episode Plug in, baby?
Well, it's how AI can be plugged into so many different applications now. There seem to be so many opportunities coming up and questions being asked. And by the way, can I just congratulate you on the great choice of song? It's a great song from a great album, one of my favourite albums by anybody.
Well, I picked it for you because I was going through all the possibilities for this titling this episode. We are talking about a lot of AI models and how things are changing, at least in the research and academia side of things in terms of the use of AI. And so it was a perfect title, I thought, and it is a favorite song of ours, favorite band of ours from their second studio album.
Yeah,
So, from Muse's Origin of Symmetry, if suppose people are not catching on, so this is a song, Plug-in Baby is a Muse song, and
exactly.
that's,
These
yeah.
days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so Tony, let's get right to the story. The first one is about a big language model or a part that was announced by OpenAI a few weeks ago. So this is a new story from Nature. It is titled "OpenAI's Deep Research Tool: Is it useful for scientists?" So Tony, do you remember what we discussed regarding deep research? That it is only available for the higher tier of paid subscription, like $200 per month, and so it's not yet
Yeah,
available for me. And this is a sort of a some scientists have used it, and this is a story on that. Do you remember this?
I do, and what
Yeah.
a frustration it must be for you, KK, to be not to have your hands on it already.
Yes, but there is some interesting development on that side as well. But let's talk about this story first. So this basically deep research is helpful. It is a narrow spectrum AI model, and it helps to generate long cited reports, potentially for streamlining literature reviews, which are an important sort of a literature content or an academic manuscript type content. Some scientists are impressed, Tony, saying that it saves time and identifies knowledge gaps. Now, that's a very good thing, but others find that it is lacking currently and needs more refinement. And there are obviously things like hallucinations and other things associated with this still. So there are some improvements necessary before it can be made, put into use. And one thing that I guess everybody should be aware of, if they're not aware of it already, that deep research is OpenAI's narrow spectrum research agent's name, but Google also has it, something called deep research. I think DeepSeek doesn't have a similar named model, but Perplexity, I think a week ago, announced its own deep research part of it. So I'm wanting to explore. I'm hoping to explore it soon. So the one concern that I had when I read it is that it might replace traditional review writing as a sort of a role, as a researchers may not be needed for this if the models evolve to have sufficiently to have enough accuracy. So Tony, your thoughts on this, especially for narrow spectrum sort of research, helping build research, literature reviews. What are your thoughts?
I suppose I don't really have any different thoughts from previous episodes of this. Is that the importance of human intervention is again re-emphasized. There has to be some kind of human oversight, but we are seeing such huge improvements in these AIs. I wonder how long that's going to be, how long that's going to last.
Right. I mean, AI is I guess it is. It's like the internet, right? When it came into our lives, people started using it. And are there any repercussions because of such AI use? That's what we are discussing in the next two stories. The first one is a news feature, again from Nature, titled "Are the Internet and AI Affecting Our Memory?" What the science says. So this article explores how the internet and AI might impact our memory. Technologies like search engines and GPS, Tony, so they have already changed the way we do things, as in everybody Googles things, right? They don't try to remember the names of things, and nobody seems to use regular physical maps anymore. Everybody has to wants to use a Google Maps or an Apple Maps or something. So some fear that online content and generative AI tools could result in brain rot, and it might affect learning more than traditional internet searches. So this is what people are suggest as in are worried about, and psychologists are debating the Google effect, whether it weakens memory. It's not conclusively proven that the use of Google impairs memory, and cognitive offloading on the other hand, in the sense, your brain does not have to remember all of these things and has some space to do other things, actually it can free up your cognitive resources and it can help you. So are you relieved, Tony, that the negative effects of excessive AI reliance have not been scientifically validated yet? And what do you,
I
yeah.
Yeah, so I am. I'm relieved that it had not been validated. I suppose I draw an analogy with people and calculators from the 1970s, 1980s. Before the scientific calculator came along, people like me had to work out how to the area under a curve or a cosine
Yeah.
a sine of a triangle manually. You had log tables, you had log books, and you worked these things out manually. When the scientific calculator came along, the need to do that disappeared. So, people aren't learning the process; they're just learning how to press the button. And I wonder here whether it's the same thing. Is that as long as a tool is accurate, do people need to understand the process if they know the outcome is going to be correct?
Right.
So what you remember is what's given to you, on screen, and what your colleagues are telling you. But there is a concern that in my mind, that this possibly shapes, news. This shapes what people remember, because the source that you have available to you have been shaped themselves.
Right. I mean, as sort of, I've been thinking about it myself. I use a lot of AI, including generative AI. And so one of the things that I had as a thought when I read this article is that people should figure out ways by which they can integrate even these reasoning chain of thought models and more modern models to help refine their own thinking. So I have a sort of a Q&A sort of thought refinement sort of a session with AI. Do not blindly take it, and you can use a filter, the human filter that you have, critical
Yeah.
filter, to improve the outputs of AI. So to summarize it, use it in such a way that it does not actually, it helps you in terms of improving and sharpening your thinking than just relying on it blindly. That's what I would say. And the same thing applies for even Google searches and, let's say, maps, because you can still use your brain to sort of take signals from the maps and not dive
You
off a road into a river or
you,
something.
you can, but I think one of the concerns is that people don't.
Yes.
Yes, you can use your brain, but if you're getting the answer that you want quickly and you think it's accurate, you think it's correct, you'll take that answer. People always look for the shortcut.
Echo chamber effect, I think that's called, as in
Is that right?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, so a similar research or a study, Microsoft study, finds AI makes human cognition atrophied and unprepared. This is a more negative sort of research headline. So this is a team of researchers from Carnegie Mellon University and Microsoft. They have done this study, and in a nutshell, they found that AI reliance can reduce critical thinking at work. Knowledge workers were interviewed. I think they were part of the study, and they reported less. They were critically. They used less critical thinking. I would say it like that, and they had more AI confidence than they should. And the study involved 319 workers and 936 AI usage examples. Now, one thing that I noted is that time pressure reduced critical thinking as well. And one of the reasons why people are taking shortcuts is because they have a lot of things to do, and they can use AI, and hence sort of it works in a sort of a complementary, in a detrimental manner. And historical context shows that similar fears with new tech, we have already talked about it, maps and Google search, have been, but they have not been proven to be right. And well, the same thing. Critical thinking should be go hand in hand with AI use, is the main sort of thought that comes out of it. But humans follow a path of least resistance, right? So if
As
they
I
are,
said earlier, yeah, people
they,
look for shortcuts.
yeah. So that's one thing. So is there anything for if suppose I would say a young researcher, early career researchers now has a lot of let's say AI tools that they can use. What would you recommend? How would you summarize it? Yeah.
I suppose it depends what they're doing. I mean, from our use case, the way we work with researchers, And we know that publishers are asking researchers, if when they're submitting a scientific publication, to declare the use of AI. Be open about that. Be as open and honest about that as you can.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're not, your paper will more than likely get rejected if it's found out that you've been using an AI. So be open about that. Be
Mm-hmm.
open in terms of how you use the AI. And if you're not sure how to express it, or if you're not sure whether the paper has expressed your research as clearly as you want it to, then work with an organization like Inago to
Mm-hmm.
help you to get the paper to the right standard.
Right, right. And so we offer even, I think, specialized AI content editing services in terms of academic research output. So if suppose you're using AI in whatever manner to improve your or even generate some content for your manuscript research or
Well,
thesis.
it's two things. We offer AI editing for those people on a budget.
Mm-hmm.
If it's required, it's good. It's not as good, of course, as the human edit, because you're
Mm.
going to get a much more comprehensive edit. But we can offer both.
Yeah, and we of course have the our own AI editing tool. It's a writing assistant, but it is trained on research papers, and that generally should give you a better result in terms of
Oh yeah,
editing a written paper than any generic AI tool. So that's another
yeah,
thing that keep.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
We are talking
That's
about
right.
Trinka, of course, and so Tony, moving on to the thing that I talked about. So, Sam Altman has allayed my concern and said that people like me who have the $20 tier will also get the deep research. So this is a story published in VentureBeat.com, titled "Open AI CEO Sam Altman shares plans to bring O3 Deep Research Agent to free and ChatGPT Plus users." So the good thing, free users will get 2 users per month. That's in my opinion that'll change the game, because if suppose if and nobody has to pay for it, but you still get to use, you'll understand how good or bad it is, and things will change. As in, there'll be an organic shift in terms of using deep research for these narrow spectrum research things like literature reviews
Yeah.
and
I mean,
ChatGPT.
you just think, how many times a month are you likely to do a literature review? You if you do one literature review a month, I think you're probably doing very well.
See, I until I start using it, I would not know what this means. If it's a chat, that I mean, if you can only do literature review on 2 separate chats, and you can continue the chat forever, as in for many days, then I think not going to be a problem. But if suppose they have some other limit in terms of token limits or something like that, apart from the 2 chats per person used for free use, we don't know. And for plus subscribers, we'll get about 10 such uses per month. The
Yeah.
200 tier, that is premium, will get approximately I mean unlimited, or maybe 200 or more. I'm not sure what the number is. Now Altman believes that it is valuable enough. This deep research thing is valuable enough to cost approximately 1,000 US dollars per month for some. This is what he thinks in terms of value that it brings. So eventually, operator. Remember, we talked about operator, which sort of synchronize the different agents and figure out things and coordinate with other AI agents. That thing hopefully will also be made available to ChatGPT Plus. Currently, Sam Altman is only giving away deep research for. So exciting news! I hope that you get to use some of these and share your experiences, Tony.
I
Some.
will. Let's watch this space. I haven't used it yet.
Yeah. Okay. Now, a few DeepSeek stories. So, this one is interesting. It is titled, it's in the conversation.com, DeepSeek: How China's Embrace of Open Source AI Caused a Geopolitical Earthquake. So, the main point of this article is that the DeepSeek's rise is because of China's focus on open source AI, and is now changing the global AI landscape. So, unlike the US, which focuses on proprietary models, China leverages open source for rapid AI advancement. So that's a main difference, and I think we are also seeing the ripple effects of it in terms of China-based model being available on the academic business and publishing industry as well, right, Tony? In
Yeah,
terms of.
absolutely, and it's a reflection how the two regimes have a different approach. The Chinese approach is very much, I would say, directly state supported, but very much strongly state encouraged.
Yes.
And in the US, it's mostly coming out of private industry
Mm-hmm.
with some sort of intervention, but all the developments, all the IP is coming out of private industry.
Yes, I mean we'll talk about the AI summit as well in a few minutes. But my question to you: do you think the states have a role in supporting AI, at least at this stage of the AI development?
I think AI is very much an economic battleground, isn't it? For want of a better term, it's one where economies will grow and thrive in the future. So I think yes, there is a role for the state to encourage and support and perhaps finance and fund programs. I'm uncomfortable with state level intervention, but then as long as the intervention is about supporting the work that's taking place,
Right.
and encouraging the work rather than controlling it.
Right. Okay. Now the next story is, how did DeepSeek build its AI with less money? This is from the
Yeah, we've
artificial.
touched on this before, haven't we, in a previous episode?
Yes, and you had expressed some sort of concern in the sense that you were skeptical about how DeepSeek had done it. So this sort of helps you understand clearly. This is from the New York Times. So the article states that DeepSeek used a method called mixture of experts. This basically splits tasks among specialized networks, and obviously it used distillation. So these techniques helps DeepSeek to use fewer and cheaper computer chips, and they reduce costs by only about 2,000 chips is what the article is saying. The system costs approximately $6 million US, and we'll talk soon about Grok 3's expenses as per Elon Musk. So, by knowing these facts, are your concerns addressed as to how such a cheap model could be made?
Um, isn't this a bit of competitive posturing? This article was written by by somebody from Google who clearly are competing directly with DeepSeek. So they're always going to look for cracks in the armor.
I think you're talking about this article. I think this is Google AI chief
Oh,
saying.
I am. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I've jumped ahead of myself. Yes.
Yeah. So this Google AI chief indeed says that DeepSeek's 6 million claim is exaggerated. So
Yeah.
the main point is that DeepSeek is claiming. The Google chief says that it costs are only listed or reported for just the final training run and not for the entire training. So now we have to take both sides of the story, and we have to see what is right. But in the sense, at least DeepSeek has provided, in my opinion, a way in which, or an alternative method in which you can improve, let's say, the training methodology overall and decrease costs. That will probably help the AI development in the long run. That's my thought.
Yeah.
All right, so we are now going to, I think, a few quick hits. So the first one, we are just talking about it. Sorry, this is not that. This is from the CSC Science Editor, written by one of our friends, Avi Steinman. It is a feature article titled "When Declarations Just Do Not Cut It: Building a Risk-Based Framework for AI Guidelines in Publishing."
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this article discusses AI risks and opportunities, suggests a risk-based framework for AI guidelines, and most importantly, European Union's AI Act is suggested as a model. Now, the Avi states that it's important to have a risk profile for AI tools, and it needs there needs to be an approved list of AI tools, especially for research purposes, so that you can differentiate between substantive and he also makes a case for differentiating between substantive and non-substantive AI use cases, especially in the context of research. So, what do you think, Tony, about the substantive versus non-substantive AI use case? I would say that substantive would be, let's say, generating an article, as opposed to non-substantive improving an article. That's the way I would think about it. What are your thoughts on this?
No, I think it's a nice, simple classification of how AI might be used. I suppose my concern, though, if I can just go back a step, you were talking about building a list. I think I'd be reluctant to see a list of resources that are out there. I think it was something, that decision in terms of what tool is appropriate for what work case is really up to the user at the end of the day. I'd be interested in seeing a registry, and then where AI tools, can register their availability and describe it. So then there's one place that a publisher or a research organization can go to say, well, find me 10 tools that do this, find me 5 tools that can do this, rather than having some kind of pre-vetted master list that somebody has made a judgment on. whilst ignoring new tools that are coming through. So I think a registry rather than a list would be useful.
Yeah, but the volunteered, I guess Ithaca SNR has that list which we have discussed before in terms of the generative AI tools for different use cases. I think
Yeah,
generative, non-generative, that those sort of a list at least help
yeah,
researchers know what is available. Now, a registry is a different sort of a concept. Maybe there will be one in the future, like a marketplace, right? That's what you're talking about.
yeah. Well, exactly. So it's so and that can be managed. That can be added to. You can subscribe to their registry. You can add information. Maybe you can advertise your wares on that registry to give yourself a higher profile. But I think a registry would be a more
Mm.
useful approach, and allowing new entrants to come into the market and may be able to position themselves as well and make sure that they're visible.
Right. And there's another story. Google's DeepMind has a mathematics model called Alpha Geometry 2. And the
Yeah,
story is titled DeepMind AI. This Alpha Geometry 2 crushes tough maths problems on par with top human solvers.
yeah.
So this model can solve geometry problems like a gold medalist in a mathematical Olympiad, and it uses a specialized language model for neurosymbolic systems. So that's pretty complex, and I think it's a great step because we want science specific. We will talk about biological models soon enough in a few episodes, Tony. But this is a great news, isn't it? At least in terms of advancing mathematics related AI.
Yes, I suppose in the same way that the development of a scientific calculator was good news for people who didn't have to work out the area under a triangle like I did 40 years ago.
Okay, okay, fine. We have 5 notes from the big AI summit in Paris, which just concluded. So, have you been following, Tony? Because it was, yeah.
Haven't, I'm afraid. No, sorry.
All right. So, the main theme is that AI pessimism has taken a step back. Generally, people are more optimistic about it, how what we can do with it,
Yeah.
and there are some questions regarding regulations in the sense that I think America is campaigning for less regulation. France is campaigning for some more regulation relatively, and UK and America have not signed
The EU has regulation. The EU has a directive in place.
yeah, but in terms of what it should be going forward in terms of development of model, there is some
Yeah.
dispute,
Yeah.
and people were talking about the impact of DeepSeek, obviously, and the uncertainty regarding AI policy from the US, and generally a positive, optimistic outlook on AI. So that's in a way, I think it's a good thing because I think we need to move with some guarded optimism in terms of how AI could
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, you're looking at if you read the national press, particularly here in the UK, I think there's less kind of pessimism and cynicism about AI than maybe there was a year ago.
Right, right, right. All right. So this is an actual use case of the deep research tool or the model from OpenAI. So what is the name of the research? Andrew Maynard, who is a professor in Arizona State University, used it to write a PhD dissertation and eventually produced a 400-page dissertation, which is what the screenshots suggest. The results were impressive but had obviously flaws, and that's what we discussed earlier. There were poor citations, redundancy, and lack of original ideas, as we've already talked about. That's a problem.
Yeah.
Now, the one of the arguments made in this paper is that because AI could eventually replace the writing or the PhD writing part of it, the journey of a PhD thesis or a PhD course is in itself the thing and not the eventual product that is a dissertation,
And
which is
that's the one thing I took away from that article. And I to a very large extent, I agree. And first of all, I've not written a PhD thesis. You will have done, KK. I haven't certainly, but I have written dissertations in the past, and I have written sort of articles that have been published. It's the process of writing is important, but the journey you get to the point where you can write, the learnings that you've made in that journey are so much more important. That's the expert isn't somebody who has written the article. The expert is somebody who's read the literature, understands the literature, absorbed the literature, and is able to translate the literature into policy ideas, thoughts, developments, initiatives, thanks to their comprehensive knowledge of what has gone before them.
right.
So it's interesting. I mean, it makes you wonder whether what Aviva is going to look like in 10 years' time, what a presentation of a PhD presentation is going to look like, if ultimately all you're doing is creating a summary of what you've learned, but using an AI to do that at the end of your journey.
Right. I mean, I think the argument would be from a negative, as in people who argue against such AI use would be that there would not be enough human involvement, and the journey itself would be, let's say, superficial from a research point of view, and hence the output, which might be good with the help of AI, may not be
Yeah,
sufficient if by itself to validate the AI use. So that's a
yeah, yeah.
counter argument. Let's see how things go. We'll always have to see how we can still
But
have the human
it's an
involvement.
interesting experiment, though, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
it does put into question how you measure the final work of
Yeah.
a PhD student.
Right. Right. All right, the final story, very interesting. So this, this is a news story about AI generated images and copyright. So this it's titled, "This company got a copyright for an image made entirely with AI. Here's how." So I'll just
A simple
summarize.
piece of American cheese.
Well, so this on the left hand side is the original AI generated image. If you suppose you want spaghetti as hair and some sort of a mosaic kind of a pattern, and so that's what you get. But then with the help of the human giving more and more instructions, eventually this image was created, and this has now an extra eye, obviously melted cheese and all of that, and hence, they have applied for copyright, and a court has already granted that this can have copyright. So the interesting question is such copyright level issues, are they going to also be a problem in academia with the use of AI generated imagery in academic research, Tony? You think?
I think that the importance of honesty and accuracy, how you create the image,
Mm.
as long as the image reflects the research, as long as the image is an honest reflection of what's been done in the research, or an honest reflection of the findings, the data, then whether you've used an AI to help you create that, whether you've done it yourself, whether you used a specialist illustrator, it doesn't really matter. The most important thing is honesty and integrity
Mm.
in the image that if you presented. And talking about this particular article, I think this is an interesting test case. I think it's going to be the first of many that will come up to say, how far
Mm.
can you use an AI to create a copyrighted object?
Right.
And I think we'll see a lot more of this moving forward.
Yeah, so this is titled "A Single Piece of American Cheese."
Yeah.
This is what it's titled, and obviously one of the things that is discussed is that if suppose you're using AI for any use case, please disclose it, especially if you're doing it for research output
Yeah,
like
I've got
manuscript.
to say I don't like the name of the image because apart from a little bit of cheese on her head, where else is the cheese? It's all spaghetti and glass, isn't it?
Yes. So, but that's, I mean, it's artistic after all. Don't need to. We
It
cannot.
is. It
We
is.
cannot.
Yeah, and each to their own.
Yes. Okay. So that brings us to the end of all the stories. So right now, Champions Trophy is a big thing. Tony, did you watch the big India versus Pakistan game
I
yesterday?
I no, I was more interested in the rugby that was happening over the weekend, where England played Scotland in the rugby, something called the Calcutta Cup,
What
which is,
really?
yeah, I don't know why it's called the Calcutta Cup. There was always some historical significance.
And
It
did
should be
England
the
win?
Kolkata Cup. England won by 1 point, I think it was. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
It was a very, very close match. And how was the England versus India versus Pakistan match? I
Well,
understand
India
India.
did really well. It was a comprehensive victory over Pakistan. Pakistan are not playing really well, but the England team, despite of the best, as in the highest score made by an Englishman in a ICC
Oh
tournament or
yes, yes,
something.
Australia. Yeah, I did see follow that. They still lost, and they got
Yeah,
350 plus runs or something, didn't they?
yes, they I think they scored 360 around, and Australia
And
chased
the
it.
irony was the guy who was responsible for beating England was born in England, the Australian guy.
And his name is Inglis,
English,
Inglis. Yeah.
English for England, plays for Australia. I know, yeah.
All right, Tony. So if somebody is listening to us for the first time and are surprised to hear cricket and rugby and everything, where can they find more information about PubShorts? All the
Well,
39 episodes before. Yeah.
yeah, sure, of course. Well, all these episodes of PubShorts, which we've been doing since, well, gosh, over 6 months now, nearly, has you can find them on YouTube. You just go to we have a YouTube channel. Just follow those and click and share with your colleagues. And you can also find us on LinkedIn. And if you want to contact either KK or I directly with any ideas for future topics for PubShots, and thank you to those who've already contributed, you can contact both of us via LinkedIn, or you can contact me directly at tonyowen@inago.com.
Yes, and to add to it, if you're watching us on YouTube, on the Inago YouTube channel, please subscribe to the channel and hit the bell notification icon. And if you're interested, if you think that some of the content that Tony and I discussed, including what are the sort of basic precautions that a researcher should use while they're using AI, or what should they do to seek to improve their AI generated content, please share it with your colleagues and friends.
And
Yeah.
I'd like to hear from researchers in terms of how they're using these AI tools practically, because we support a lot of researchers in the work that we do, in the work that they do, I should say.
Right.
I'd be very interested to hear from researchers in terms of how the good and bad experiences
Yeah,
they've had.
we are always looking forward to hearing from our listeners and the audience as to how they're using AI. So until Tony, the next episode, which we will probably publish in 2 days' time, this is Dr. KK on behalf of everyone who helps us to bring out such content. And on behalf of Tony, this is Dr. KK signing off. We'll see you in the next one. Bye, Tony.
Bye, KK.